Welcome to our first episode of We Are Geek.
I am Josiah Swanson.
And I'm Ben Hendrian.
And it is also Halloween Day, so happy Halloween, everyone.
Happy Halloween.
Speaking of Halloween and costumes and all that fun stuff, I have a question for you.
Okay. Fire away.
All right. This is all hypothetical here.
Okay.
But if you could choose one character to be for one day, who would you choose? And that could be a character from any franchise, universe, anything. One character, and I'm not just talking about in costume, like actually be that character.
Oh, cool. So like have all their abilities or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a quick answer for me because my favorite superhero is the Flash, so I'd pick the Flash.
I see what you did there. That was a quick answer for me. Flash. You see what he did there?
See what I did there? Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Zippy. Yeah. Fast. You want to be fast.
Who would you be?
I would be Thor.
Thor. Oh yeah, Hammer. Yeah, Mjolnir.
Hammer.
Mjolnir's
I want
awesome.
that hammer. I want to be worthy of the hammer.
He wants to be worthy.
I think that'd be awesome.
It would be.
And honestly, Flash and Thor would make a perfect team.
Lightning and lightning.
Yep. You got the speed. You got the brawn.
And the hammer.
And the hammer.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah.
So before we get into the episode, we also want to give a shout out to Geeks and Gamers. It's a Facebook group that we're a part of, and now a YouTube channel. So if you're part of that group, awesome. If you're not, then I encourage you to also check it out. And let's get into the episode. Would you say that right now is the golden age of geekdom?
You know, that's an interesting question. I would probably say yes, because now is just so full of great stories and everything else out there that all geeks can appeal to, that it feels like the golden age because there's so much good content coming to us every day. Mm-hmm. So I would probably say yes, because I don't think I can't think of another time in history there's been this big of geekiness has been this big of a thing. I mean, the nerds kind of just used to be in the background, and now they're in the foreground. You know, they're in right now. They're a thing right now. So I would definitely say it's the golden age of geekdom.
Yeah, it's just kind of interesting how like people like us, you know, like geeks used to be just shunned, and you know, kind of like just kind of considered not, you know, an important part of the culture and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, you're a nerd, stay over there.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want that, you know, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah. So it's just kind of interesting, especially, I don't know, I feel very blessed to be alive in this time. Like, you know, it's only perfect that we were placed here. Exactly, and it's just you know, even in our short, you know, relatively short lifetime and stuff, it's just interesting to see where we were at, you know, like 20 some years ago, and where we are today and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, I kind of fell in love with superheroes and fantasy worlds, sci-fi, all that stuff at a relatively young age and stuff. So it's just interesting how if you're a geek, you were wired to be that way from the get-go. That's just, you're born that way. That's really who you are.
I mean, it is, but it is true that some people do adopt geekiness as they get older.
Right.
But if you're going to be a geek from it, like if you love that stuff at a young age, I don't think you're ever going to not like it. It'd be kind of weird to just all of a sudden, years later, say, "Oh, I don't like this stuff anymore." You know. And
I wonder if those who, you know, adapt that at an older age, if that earlier time in their life, if they always were interested in it and they were kind of like drawn to it, but they never really fully embraced it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I know myself embraced the geek culture when I read J.R.R. Tolkien's writings, you know, The Lord of the Rings, and C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia. That's really where I first started loving fantasy, and the sci-fi fantasy genre, and it inspired me to write, and it inspired me to want to have good characters and want to have good stories, and in turn, you know, built my interest in movies and built my interest in TV and games, and just finding every bit of good story I can out of those things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's just it's always fun to read a story, watch a story, experience a story, and just look at all the positive things in those stories. What can I take away from the story that is going to impact me in a positive way? And we also we love the characters. It's very easy for me to fall in love with characters that are trying to do the right thing, even when they have flaws and issues and stuff.
Characters that have emotional depth, characters you can relate to.
Characters you can relate to, yep. And so it's kind of the same thing with me, at a very young age. Even before, the Lord of the Rings movies came out and stuff, I was really interested and drawn to fantasy and stuff. I didn't get into superheroes until the first Spider-Man movie came out, actually, because before that I was never really exposed to it. But I fell in love with superheroes as soon as I watched Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man was the first superhero movie I watched. And I loved it.
Yeah.
I got what Peter Parker's character, and ever since then, Spider-Man's always been one of my favorite superheroes.
Yeah. So it's just interesting how even at a young age and stuff, people are just geeks
impacted
from the beginning and stuff. So it's just very interesting. Going back to J.R. Tolkien and C.S. Lewis, this was just a thought that just came into my mind a little bit ago. Just kind of speculation. It's going to sound really weird. You ready for that?
That's okay.
I think that Tolkien and Lewis were among some of the first geeks ever.
I don't find that completely false or anything, because we don't know super far, really far back, if what would have been considered a nerd then. But when Tolkien and Lewis were around, they wrote stories of fantastical things, fantasy, mythology. They wrote their own characters, their own stories, inspired by that, and they were really drawn to that, and that's the stuff that nerds are drawn to today. Stories, characters, stuff like that. So I think that in their time, people would have said, hey, look, they're the creative minds. They're the creative minds behind this. They think all this up. That's kind of what they would have been, just creative people instead of nerds, I think. Yeah,
even though geekiness wasn't even a concept back then, they were still drawn to mythology, larger than life heroes. Beowulf. Tolkien was a huge Beowulf fanatic.
You can tell.
Yeah, and they were just really into the fantasy stuff. They were really drawn to that. And, like I said, geek wasn't even a word back then. But it's just really interesting to think about that. Even before that, these two very admirable men who kind of started the wave of fantasy and stuff, how they were kind of drawn to the same things that even we are drawn today. And
you think about it, their writing, their fantasy and stuff, it has inspired generations of fans. In fact, when Peter Jackson, who made the Lord of the Rings movies, he said when he made those movies, he wanted kids to be watching and say, this is filmmaking, this is what filmmaking is, I want to be able to do this, and pursue that. And he's very Peter Jackson is a huge inspiration for directing. Yep. Which is completely understandable. That's exactly what he meant for the Lord of the Rings movies to do, to make kids want to go into the film business, to bring good films to our everybody around. So that's all really, really neat.
Yeah, it is. Yep. So, whether you agree with us on that or not, you can feel free to let us know, and we can talk about that further. I'd love to hear what you think about that. Where did geekdom actually start? Because everything has a history. And I'm really big into looking at the origins of where things came from and stuff. So
exactly, yep.
Just speculation, but yeah.
So it's neat to look, at the world we live in today with so many good movies, TV shows, books, everything else. we're going to have tons of stuff for countless numbers of years to inspire us to build the geek culture even more. So it's going to be really neat to see how these next few years progress and see if it gets even bigger.
Right.
And see if more and more geeks become a part of the culture. So that's going to be really neat to see.
Yeah. And, it's just going to continue to mature. It's kind of continuing to develop and stuff over the years. And, the thing that we have to remember is always what are the good things in all these stories and these characters that we can all draw from in a positive way to impact us personally. And I know lots of us do that and stuff. So
yeah, and that's one of the great things about geekiness is the diversity of it, because there's so many different universes, stories, characters that anybody can relate to. Because there's always a character that maybe you're quiet and shy. There's a character like that. Maybe you're really happy, outgoing, or maybe you're kind of sad. There's a character like that. It really just depends on where you find them, but there's characters that anybody can relate to.
Yeah, and I love diversity. Like whenever I meet somebody who has like very different opinions and tastes than what I do, I love that, because we can talk about it. We can talk about why do you like this and why do I like that, and it's a very educational experience, and it's just cool to connect with another person in that way, I think. And
it's neat because maybe if they like something that you really don't like, maybe if you learn more about it, you might end up liking it.
Right. Exactly.
Maybe if you research it more, you might like it. I have that instance with a lot of things. I'm not a huge fan of Doctor Who, but I have sisters that love Doctor Who, friends that love Doctor Who. It's just never been my type of thing, but I think it's really cool that they like that.
Thank you for watching our very first video from WeRGeek. I'm going to be real with you about this. I'm not really a big fan of being in front of the camera, so it's a little bit nervous for me, but I'm excited to continue with this show. And we do hope that you enjoy this first video. We will just keep getting better at this.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I guess we just have like one final thing just to tell you.
Yep, it takes skill. But always remember, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, all geeks win.
That's right.